Miss LaQuisha Williams.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning. How are you doing, my dear friend?
I am awesome and honored and blessed to be here because I passed 5 accidents this morning.
Okay.
And so I am so glad that we all made it here safely.
One time for safe travel, traveling grace and mercy. And we're so excited to see our Bishop over there on the other side.
Yes.
What's up in Studio A? How are you doing this morning, Bishop? Okay, so we're going to get into the hot report. So this is where we discuss what's hot and only what's hot, not what's not. We only do what's hot in South Florida, HAUTE. And so today is Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. And if you're wondering, what does that mean? It means that we commemorate the formation and signing of the Constitution of the United States. And it was signed on September 17, 1787, and it is dedicated to all U.S. citizens. It's a day that we recognize both the importance of the nation's Constitution and its citizens. And we are citizens of the United States of America, so we commemorate this day. Also, New Birth will be, WMBM, the radio station, will be hosting a healthy, wealthy, and wise festival on Saturday, October 13th, and we want you to save this date. This will include health screenings, massage therapy, I need a massage, information about healthy eating, first aid, emergency preparedness, CPR. There will be a kids fun zone and line dancing. Sign me up for the line dancing part. And again, this is Saturday, October 13th here at the radio station. In addition to that, this week, the BOMA, Black Owned Media Alliance, will host their award ceremony. And I'm so excited. I was nominated for an award. Yay! Woo, want to do it?
Yeah.
And so I was nominated for Best Social Media Communicator for the year. So I'm grateful for the nomination. And there are some other wonderful people who are nominated. Some we've had guests on our show. Wanda Bethel is one of them. And Latoya Storup. They were all nominated as well. And many other people. But I just wanted to highlight them in the award ceremony. So if you're, available and you have time, join us September 20th at 11:30 at the Hilton Miami. Now, you got to buy tickets. I don't have tickets for you, but you have to purchase tickets. And information is also on my social media at @Lala_Baines. And if you're tuned in to our show today, we want you to hashtag Good Success Mondays, tag LaQuisha and myself on Instagram, Lala_Baines, and Twitter, and on Instagram, LaQuisha is Lady LaQuisha. So yesterday, LaQuisha and I, we had like a sister day.
Yes.
And we had so much fun. We decided that we wanted to treat our 2 dear friends, Davika Williams and Catrice Johnson, because they had lost loved ones. So we wanted to just treat them, just shower them with love and support. And we did that yesterday. And LaQuisha, you have an event September 30th, entitled Mental Health, Have You Checked on Your Strong Friend? And that is what we did yesterday. We checked on our strong friends.
Yeah.
And that brings us to our guest for today, Miss Cinnamon Key. I like that name, Cinnamon. It's spice. Nice. Okay, so Cinnamon is a native to South Florida. She was born in Pembroke Pines. And she attended grade school and college school in South Florida. She earned her Associates of Arts degree from Miami-Dade College and bachelor's and master's in social work from Barry University. These experiences helped shape the budding, compassionate woman that actually existed deep inside. With those realizations taking shape, Cinnamon decided in the early months of 2008 to dedicate herself to serving others and helping them find their light. She decided to be the match that lit the candle of competence and confidence in the life of others. She began working with teenagers in the foster care system and transitioning into the world. This work brought her in contact with children who were familiar with deep, unresolved pains and were quickly being ushered into an adult world where they were not yet equipped to maneuver. Because the needs are great, Cinnamon volunteers in various capacities, including counseling teams and show signs of depression. Please welcome Miss Cinnamon to our show today. Welcome, Cinnamon.
Hey, everybody.
Turn your mic on.
What am I doing?
Say the intro again. Hello, Cinnamon.
Hello, everybody.
All right. She's just as sweet as she sounds.
I try.
Yeah. So I didn't read your full bio because I want everyone to get to know you and who you are.
Sounds good.
And Quisha's going to take it from here.
Yes, everyone knows that I will be hosting an event. It's called Mental Health. Have you checked on your strong friend? And it's going to be on September 30th. You can go to worldclassconversations.eventbrite.com or laquishawilliams.com for your tickets for more information. And I am so honored to have Cinnamon here, who is just multifaceted. She is a proud, member of Second Baptist too, right?
I am. Hey, Pastor Jackson.
Yeah. So and Cinnamon is just an amazing mental health clinician. And one thing she has said, and she will talk about it more on the show. And we did a Facebook Live, and it went viral last week. The week before. Yeah. And the question was asked: what if you're the leader, the president, the pastor, the therapist that needs a therapist?
Wow.
And Cinnamon, could you share your story to our audience?
I will. Hey, everybody. Yes, as you said that you did only read a portion of the bio. If anyone wants to see the rest, they can go on the website, which we'll give probably at the end. But I do have not only an experience with depression being a clinician, but also being the person that was quote unquote on the couch.
Wow.
And I was someone who struggled. I was diagnosed clinically with depression in 2007, but the onset was much earlier than that. I just didn't know that. I thought it was grief, or I thought it was stress, and I thought it was a lot of different things. But it turned out to be clinical depression. Thank God I landed in the hands of a Christian therapist because she helped me understand and unpack a lot of that.
So I want to back up. So you said it was diagnosed in 2008.
2007.
2007. But
yes.
before this, so you saw signs. What were those signs?
The first time I noticed something was with the death of one of my grandfathers in 2001. And I noticed that I gained 20 pounds a month after he died. 20 pounds in 1 month.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That is a lot. And I just chalked it up to grief. That's really honestly what I thought it was. I was like, wow, this is grief. This is the first death of a grandparent that I've ever dealt with in my life. I don't know how to deal with it, so I'm not dealing with it very well. But you know what? I'll get back on track. And so I kind of just swallowed it up and kept it moving because, that's what we're supposed to do as strong individuals. You just deal with it and keep it moving. And it was about 2004 with the next death of a grandparent. But in 2007, January 4th, actually, 2007. We'll not forget the date. I just had enough. I was like, this is hard. It was the last semester of my senior year in college. I was my graduating semester. Stress on top of stress with added stress. and dealing and walking around with things that I had not unpacked, I had not dealt with. And I was just driving down a winding road and decided, you know what? You see that huge tree up front? I'm just going to floor it, and I'm going to just go straight into that tree. I've had enough. I had enough. So I was like, nope, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. And I had a Mitsubishi Eclipse at the time, sports car. Now, would you imagine I put the pedal to the floor?
Wow.
That car did not accelerate.
Wow.
At all. It did not accelerate. And, at the time, I can safely say, the enemy was speaking to me. So at the time, I couldn't hear clearly. I didn't know at the time. That was God saying, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. You're not going anywhere right now.
He's not finished with you.
You're not going anywhere right now. And I got angry. I remember getting angry with my car. I remember being angry with God that it didn't work. And so, I swerved before it was too late. And because I would have been severely injured, but not enough of the impact to have really taken my life. So I swerved at the last minute. I was on the side of the road, and I just remember boohoo crying, just crying, just uncontrollable, hysterical crying. And I picked up the phone and called the only friend I could think of at the moment that wouldn't panic. And it was a guy friend of mine, and I called him, and the first thing he said was, "What's wrong? Where are you?" It's like he knew something had happened, and I hadn't said a word. I just dialed. He answered, "What's wrong? Where are you?" And I, at that point, disclosed to him what I had just thought, what my thoughts were, what I wanted to do, and he was like, "I think you should talk to someone." And that's where it began. I would love to say that was the last time I tried to take my life, but it wasn't. There was another incident, and at that point, it was like, okay, I really need to talk to someone. So that was where it went. And through therapy, we realized that may have been the diagnosis, that may have been the breaking point, but that wasn't the onset. That wasn't when it began. That wasn't when the domino effect began. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
2018, you were diagnosed, so you went to a therapist. So how was that process?
Scary. I'm gonna be honest. For me, it was scary. It was scary to admit that there was something there. It was scary to accept hearing that, because remember, I was getting the degree in the very field. Wow. So I knew what the diagnosis, I knew. So when my therapist says, you have had several major depressive episodes, I was like, what? Me? No.
Therapist.
No. I was just stressed. I was just, stressed out. I just, lost it for a minute, but I'm okay. She was like, no, sweetie, we got to deal with this. And we did. We dealt with some stuff. We unpacked some stuff, and I had come to accept some things. But the most fearful part became with telling people, with being completely honest and transparent with the story. And I would say something here and there. I would share here and there. But to come out, I think it was after Christmas, but before New Year, somewhere in that week of 2017, just recently, that I went live on Facebook and I was like, look, guys, here's my story. Wow. Here it is. And I said, I was afraid because I'm a therapist, so I'm not supposed to feel this. At least that's what society will tell you. I'm a Christian, so I'm not supposed to feel this. That's what you'll hear in church. I'm a black woman. I'm supposed to be strong and I'm supposed to be able to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. I'm supposed to. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to wake up in the morning, put on my cape and my mask, and go and save the world every day. That's what I'm supposed to do. So what happens when none of those things hold up? So I was afraid to say anything for backlash that I wish I could say I didn't get, but it is what it is. It comes.
Why do you think it's such a taboo conversation? Because even now, as I start talking about this, depression and grief and all of that, it's like people do not want to talk about it. They are embarrassed. They are ashamed. Where do you think that comes from?
Fear of being judged, I think. Because as much as we talk about mental health now, more so than we have almost ever, I think, it's still not completely understood. It's a lot to try to understand. It's a lot to try to learn about. It's a lot to take in. So there's a lot that we may not understand. And so to try to explain to someone something that is difficult for them to understand, you kind of have a fear of being misunderstood. You kind of have a fear of being judged behind it. There are times when I've witnessed people share with loved ones that they have a certain diagnosis, be it mental health or even medical, and the reception is, oh, that's it? That's all you got? That's it? Well, we could deal with that. And it's kind of downplayed, not because it's not important to the person you're talking to, but because they're not really sure how to, okay, so what am I supposed to do? And I remember telling a friend of mine my diagnosis, and the first response was, so what do I do with that? So what do I do with that? So at that point I froze and I was like, you know what? Don't do nothing. It's okay. It's fine. And I retreated immediately because I was I don't know what to tell you to do.
But really, as a friend,
what do you do?
That would be my response. So what do I do to help you get through this?
Because at the time it was still new to me, so I didn't even know how to answer that question. So I was just like, I don't know. And the question now, I can say, oh man, I have amazing friends that have taken the time to get to know I call them my waves. I've given them names. I call them my depression waves. How people are surfing and you have to, you have a big wave coming and you have to learn how to ride it. You don't fight against the wave. You have to learn how to ride it. I call them my waves, and I'm like, when I have a depression wave, that they have learned certain ways to just be there for me. They're like, okay, I'm just checking on you today. You know what? Did you eat lunch? Did you eat lunch? Because I know you like to skip lunch when you don't want to go outside. I'm gonna bring you some lunch. What you want? I may pour your tropical. What do you want? Or wherever they are, and they will not let me say no. They won't have it. They will not have it. But these are friends that have been around me enough in and out of my waves to kind of learn, you know what, this works for her, this does not work for her. But my appreciation is that they tried something. Even if I didn't receive it well, you tried something. You tried to be there for me in a way.
My question to you is, and I was saying this weekend to Laquisha and the weekend, one of my other friends, that when you face disappointment or some form of failure or something, that you should process it. Basically, why are you upset? Why do you feel disappointed? Examine that and then store it. Meaning, you need to remember that situation happened, and then you move forward. And so, my question for you is, being that you have a disease and then now you are practicing in this field, has that shaped how you deal with your clients because you've been through it?
Absolutely. Because when they're sitting in front of me, and let me say this, trained clinicians, they are very well trained. And I can speak for the Masters of Social Work courses at Barry University because I went through them. Very good training. We did receive very good training. But I will also say, being on the other side, like I said, being in the seat that they're actually sitting in when they're talking to me, it gives a different level of empathy because I'm like, sweetie, I get it. I get it. And I think even though in therapy sessions, I don't talk to them about me, but of course they can read about it online. They can see it. They know it's there. Me saying to them, I understand, is another level of affirmation for them, that they're no longer feeling like, oh my God, nobody gets it. Nobody doesn't understand. So when I have a client to say to me something like, and if I say, how are you today? And they just say, I'm here. I'm like, oh my God, you're here? Girl, that is amazing. And it really is, because sometimes just getting out of bed takes everything you have, like every piece of energy that you woke up with that morning, peeling yourself out of bed. By the time you come out of the bathroom, you're depleted, like you're done. Wow. All you want to do is get back into bed. That's it, zero energy. So the fact that you got up, got out of bed, got dressed, and got here, gotcha. Wow, I am ready to, throw you the biggest party ever just because you walked in the door. Sometimes that is because I know how that is. Because I can vividly remember a time where I was like, Cinnamon, if you don't get up right now, you are going to use the bathroom in this bed. And I remember saying to myself, oh, well, who would care?
Oh, well, who would care?
Who would care? Oh, well, I'll just go to the bathroom right here in this bed.
So, so it's those private times that are so crucial for people who are going through this?
Just getting out of the bed can be monumental. But having been in that seat, having sat in that seat, I understand how monumental it is. So to be able to celebrate that enthusiastically with the client will help the client understand, you know what, I did get out of bed. I did make it here. Yeah, like, yeah, girl, come on. So, and we'll start talking about, a few other things. It's a little bit of an opener for them. It's rapport building. It's a lot of different things. But prior to me going through what I went through, had someone said to me it was hard to get out of bed, I'd have just been like, yeah, girl, I had those days, but not understanding exactly what that feels like. Being able to filter it through a different level of perception for myself. So it has indeed changed the way that I interact with not just clients, but just with people in general.
Yeah. For someone who is going through a time of grief, they're feeling down, feeling low, tell them what is to be expected to visit or even to book that appointment for a therapist. Because, we have this taboo that, it's for crazy people, which you just need to be educated on what it is. So for someone who does not know, booking that appointment, what does that look like sitting in front of a therapist?
Understand that this is a person that's going to listen to you objectively. Okay. You don't have to walk in knowing everything and being able to talk to them. They're going to listen to you where you are, because depression, the experience of depression is different for a lot of people. The onsets, the triggers, what has triggered this, your family life, your professional life, your spiritual life is different for different people. So the person that you're sitting in front of is not here to tell you what to do, number one. They're not here to judge you for anything that you say. It is completely confidential. You will not hear it again in the streets. It is totally confidential by law,
Mm-hmm.
by law.
Mm-hmm.
By law. Don't think that, oh, this person just isn't going to repeat it just because they're a good. By law, we are bound. We cannot repeat anything. You can't say something as simple as, oh, you know what, my client told me about a loaf of bread. Or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Cannot repeat anything. And know that the therapist is here to, I think on our live, I likened it to a TSA agent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A TSA agent. You know, when you go through TSA and you're traveling, you have to have certain things in your bag and certain things you can't have in your bag as you're going through, or you can't get to your next destination. A therapist, I liken it to a TSA agent, that they're going to look at what's in your bag. They're going to help you go through what's in your bag. What are you walking around with? This you can't take to the next destination if you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
This you know, this is hindering you. This is holding you back. It's not letting you go through. You know, it's not going through the belt. Your bag's not going through the belt. Something was found in there that's keeping you where you are right now, and that you can't go to the next step or the next level of where you want to go. So let's deal with what it's like to let go of this thing. Mm-hmm. Not just saying, you know what, this water bottle, you can't take that with you. Here, I'm going to throw it away. Not that's regular TSA. Mm-hmm. But your therapist will say, let's talk about this water bottle and why you feel like you need to keep it with you. What's the attachment to this water bottle? Do you think you can let it go? Mm-hmm. What would your life look like if you let it go? Yeah. That's kind of a TSA.
I'm like, you know, and I'm replaying in my mind some things that, yeah, you probably should let that go.
Listen, I was talking to her, and as I'm talking to all of the psychiatrists and therapists who will be at World Class Conversations, I'm like, I think maybe I need a therapist, you know, because after she started talking about some things, and I realized that my brother has been missing for 3 years, and my family as a whole, we haven't spoken about it. And you were like, what? I was like, no. When we bring it up, everyone is like, we can't talk about it. Like, right. So, and I said, you know, because we all grieve differently, right. And I feel like sometimes we keep going and going and going, and that's why we decided to take our girlfriends out, because we say, you know what? Yes, they're strong and they're going, but what happens in that quiet time, like you said, don't want to get up out of bed and, you know, those type of things. So we want people to know that it's not a taboo thing, that you can come and get help. And we see that, like our celebrities, Kate Spade left behind a 9-year-old daughter and a husband, and you would think that she was at the pinnacle of her success and doing well, and she hung herself. Also, Robin Williams, and this is the thing with Robin Williams for me, he made everyone smile, laughed, you know, but then he took his life.
But you know, they say a lot of comedians suffer with depression, which is so ironic because you're making people laugh. You're making people laugh.
But then inside, you're going through. Yeah. So what is that like for someone? And so I heard this quote before, is that success without fulfillment is failure. And I see that a lot of people want the success, want the money, but then they're still not fulfilled with whatever it is, because we all have different fulfillment needs. Right. And so that's my concern now with people and the wave of success and what we're doing. We're missing something. So how can one just like, okay, I got to take a step back?
I would say be careful of the masks that we wear consistently. I would say just let's use caution with putting them on, and don't forget to take them off. Don't forget to take them off. I used this example to someone. I think we were on the phone, and I was talking about a mask, and I was like, you know, if the longer you leave the mask on, you know, when we were kids and we wore Halloween costumes that had full face masks. You know, I don't see a lot of people doing that quite so much anymore. But full, complete face masks. What if we left that on for a year? Not just the Halloween night when we would go out trick-or-treating. What if we left that on for a year? I'm the superhero that I've chosen to be, that I think I want to look like and I want to emulate, and I've chosen this character, and I'm being this character, and I'm never looking at me. I'm not looking at me. If I keep that mask on, can I remember what I look like? Who am I when I take the mask off? So people like comedians who are expected to entertain from the time they hit the stage to the time they leave the stage, And when they're out in the streets, if they're just going to get coffee, they're supposed to be, can you imagine if Robin Williams went to start? Yeah, you are supposed to be on
all the time,
24/7.
Right.
And if you're wearing the mask of that comedian, the comedian mask, 24/7, you're not allowed to make a mistake. You're not allowed to have a moment because you're you're jolly, you're jovial, you're fun all the time. Mm-hmm. At what point, when you stop and look at yourself, do you think, oh my God, are people going to like this? Are people going to understand this? Are you even going to accept this? But this is who I actually am. Mm. It's hard. And so I tell people, be cautious. We have to be cautious of the masks that we wear, and self included. Mm-hmm. We have to be cautious of those. And remember, maybe I should take it off for a minute. Let me take this mask off and let me just be me. Have people that you can be around without the mask on.
And that's something that they can do coming to a therapist too, right?
Please take it off. I know a lot of people have a lot of, and I do myself, I watch Iyanla. That's my auntie in my head. That's my auntie in my head. Like everybody knows, in some life we were auntie and niece. But there are some practices that I kind of get like, I don't know. But there's one practice I love when they come into the house and she makes them take their makeup off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Yes. Take it off. Mm-hmm. Don't feel like you have to conform to what society says beauty is or society says is acceptable. Or how could you leave your house with no makeup? Easily, like this. Walk and just walk out the door. And guess what? I'm still me. I'm still who I am on the inside. And when she does that, and that's when I'm like, yes, take it off. Take the mask off and be okay. Work on being okay with who you are.
Right. Take the title. I tell people, like, I was talking to my dad this weekend too, and he was like, oh, I'm tired or whatever. And I was like, well, don't go. Like, he said, it's easy for you to say it, And I was like, no, you're not the bishop today if you don't feel like some days you don't feel like going in front of, And I see that's a lot with leaders. And sometimes, and that's why I didn't host any events last year, because I said I was not feeling myself. Because I said, no, I don't want to be LaQuisha, the world-class leader, and all of this. I said, no, I have to take care of me because I didn't like what was going on inside of me. You know what I'm saying?
And let me say, when you have a friend that does check on you, the strong friend, be honest with them.
Yeah.
Because I texted you last year.
Yeah.
And I was
and see, that's the thing.
I texted you last year, and I was like,
because
are we doing Girl Connection? Like, are we? Because I need to lay eyes on you. Because I was just like, I need to lay eyes on you. Like, we are. No, we're not. Okay.
And I'm guilty. I'm guilty of this, and that's why I tell people. I said I'm guilty of this, and that's why I'm open with it now. That if someone says, "How are you doing?" I'm like, I'm good. Mm-hmm. And also, what the conversation stops here. How are you doing, Cinnamon? I'm fine. Let me know if you need anything. Okay, that's it.
And
But sometimes when the person says, I'm okay, that okay is saying, you know what? I need you to dig a little deeper. Mm-hmm. I need you to come and save me from whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I had to, because you always pushing positivity. I want the world. Like my girlfriend said, Quisha, you were in this bubble. Everyone is not going to. I said, no, I get it. I'm getting it.
You're getting it. Getting it. I can say that honestly that you are getting it.
Even my pastor, my bishop, he said a year or two. You remember? He was like, live long enough, LaQuisha, and then you'll see. And I'm like, okay, it's slowly coming. People are not the same. And that's the fight that I've had. Yeah. Because I always look for the best in others. Mm-hmm. And, I feel like that should be the same thing. And when I have sad moments, I'm hoping that I can rescue. And I get a lot of inbox messages from women and women leaders, multimillionaires, too, who are struggling and wondering how I'm so happy. And I'm like, but you got the millions, though.
That's how you know that money does not.
It does.
Yeah.
But I believe we need to take a break. Do we need to take a break? We're at the breaking point.
No,
okay, we can keep going. Okay. Mm-hmm. But we always have this conversation about, and we ask our guests, what does success look like to you? And so,
question.
For us, it doesn't. It's not necessarily monetary. Yes, we want to be successful, but for me, it's family. It is having a successful and thriving business, but it's having good relationships, strong foundational relationships. So that success doesn't necessarily mean money, because we can see, like you mentioned, Kate Spade.
Right.
She had money. You know, she probably had.
I left a 9-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Who cares about the money when you
Yes.
have kids?
But she,
know?
Married,
like,
and had a child. And then I always stress this. I believe, not all people, but some people want you to believe because you're single that you can't be happy. And I'm like, no, seriously,
they cannot say that to me.
like because you're single that you can't be happy.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, I am happy. I'm not saying I don't desire to have a mate, because yes, I do. But it does not mean that I can't be happy as a single woman.
Right.
Because I am. I'm happy in who I am and who God created me to be.
Right.
And when God brings him, we're gonna continue this happy thing.
Right.
We want to take it to a higher level. But I am happy with who I am.
But as leaders and as a therapist, and this is one thing what I want us to be able to discuss at mental health. Have you checked on your strong friend? Is because even most of my followers are Christians, are believers, and when I have people, women coming to me saying that I wanted to commit suicide, I wanted to kill my son and myself. I'm like, okay, I could pray with you, but I'm going to direct you to a therapist.
Absolutely.
So, what could you tell our listeners for someone who, because this is a Christian station as well, that it's okay to contact someone like yourself?
I liken it to medical professionals. I hear often people say that, I got the sugar. I'm thinking of my grandparents' generation. And when it's diabetes, they're talking about diabetes. I got the sugar, and, I got to take this pill for that high blood pressure. I can't eat that pork no more. And so who told you that? A medical professional. Because something was going on that sent you to a doctor. Something, be it a pain in your knee, be it, whatever, So if there's a pain somewhere else, why wouldn't you go see a professional? Why wouldn't you go see a professional? We're comfortable with walking around saying that, I have fill in the blank medical diagnosis, but we can't say, I have fill in the blank mental or emotional diagnosis. And I need to deal with that. And a lot of times when I say, like I said, I've got some feedback, and the feedback I got when I first came out publicly to be like, look, I have depression, and there are moments, there's maybe a month at a time where I just don't, I just can't leave the house. Well, I can, but it's very difficult. The feedback I got was from one of the members that I had grown up with in that particular church, that I grew up in that church, contacted me because they saw it on Facebook, and they contacted me and was like, you shouldn't air your dirty laundry.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, thanks for your feedback. And, I didn't know what to say. I really didn't know what to say. But I remember thinking, if some other adults growing up had been a little more transparent with their stuff with me, there may have been some things that I didn't step into. Instead of just saying, you know what, don't shack up. Well, why? What are some of the pitfalls? What are some of the, help me out with what's going on. And I didn't learn that until after I had found myself in a cohabitation situation. And I was like, oh no, I want out. So this is what they didn't tell me about. And I got out, but it was just like, I wonder if I would have found myself in that situation had there been a little more transparency. And so, okay, you know what? Put me on the chopping block. I'll be transparent. I'm here on the praise team. I'm singing in the choir. Yes, I'm running up and down the side of the aisles when the word is good. Yep, that's me. And yes, I'm the same person that does not want to get out of bed the next day. I'm the same person. Same girl. Same cinnamon. But I'm also the same cinnamon that's going to be like, give me a minute. Maybe I just need to have this downtime with God. Maybe God's trying to get me still so he could say something to me. I don't know, but let me just have this moment. I will be back. And that's what I tell people. Give me a moment. I'll be back. Because I'm coming back.
Right.
I was like, I'm
when
coming
you say
back.
Give you a moment, meaning that you don't want to be bothered right now?
Meaning let me be where I'm at. Okay. Let me feel what I'm feeling.
Okay.
And that's one thing I've learned over the years is that when I fight against the wave, I crash harder.
Okay.
I crashed out. But I learned that about me because I was able to, I opened myself up and allowed myself to just go ahead and feel what I was feeling.
And I think that's important. That's what I was sharing with my friend this week. And I said, if you're hurt and upset, I said, that's fine. You need to feel that, process that. And if that takes you a day to process that, or a week, it just takes you however long it takes you. But you need to go through that pain.
Right.
And you need to understand why you're disappointed. Why did that person hurt you?
Right.
You know, like, not to say that you're the reason why that person hurt you, but maybe because that other person is going through something. But you need to know that it's not a reflection of you. So that's a part of your processing, knowing that that's not a reflection of you. But you need to feel that pain.
Right. Right.
What are some of the other reasons why, or what would end up causing depression? We talked about grief. We talk about, and a lot of women are now dealing with infertility.
Same.
And so I'm like, oh God, like
Same.
it's so much stuff.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is, and this is why I want to be very transparent to, being a platform and being a leader myself, that these are things that we don't get to talk about. We talk about the success, we talk about business, but the things that we won't say openly are infertility, grief of a loved one. How? Because people expect you to,
and no amount of money can fix that.
No,
cannot.
Exactly.
Cannot.
Exactly.
Because if so, I would have been played the lottery and went to Miccosukee and tried to get some money to bring back some of my grandparents. Like, if that was the case, I would try to get my hands on some funds, but that won't do anything. One thing the first thing that came to my mind as you were asking that question was our expectations. What are some of our expectations? Let me tell you, oh Lord, I expected by the time that I was 25 years old that I would be a college graduate, I would be somebody's wife, and we'd be either, if not purchasing our first home, almost done with the down payment. Like, I had a whole life, set up in my head. And by the time I was 25, none of those things happened. Not one of those things happened. And at that time, in the foreseeable future, it wasn't coming. And so here I sit, 38 years old. I'll be 39 next month, by the way, if anybody wants to send a birthday shout out. I like Starbucks. Here I am. I'll be 39 next month. I am still single. Now, what if I had held on to that expectation and seen that as a failure?
You could be in a relationship that
I never should have been in. That was not God ordained. I could have, the pitfalls I could have gone into behind the expectations that I put on myself. Let's be clear. I put them on myself. My parents never told me to be perfect. I put that on myself. My parents never told me, they would tell me, I'm the older sibling, so they would tell me, watch out for my younger brother. They never told me to become responsible for him, for his good. If he did something good, okay, great, I was a good big sister. But if he did something and got in trouble, oh my God, I'm a horrible big sister, I failed him. That was on me. I did that to myself. I created those expectations. I have to be great at everything to lead an example for him and my younger cousins. And nobody told me that. Nobody told me that. I told me that and followed those expectations. So let's watch our expectations.
You know what? That's so important because I remember when I graduated from college in 2007, and I was like just so determined. I was like, I graduated. I needed to have this, 6-figure job. And away from my, parents on my own, being successful, and then that didn't happen for me.
Right.
And so I was like, you can come home, and it's okay. Like, you have a home to come to, which is a blessing. That you're a young adult, you graduated from college, you did what you said you were going to do, your parents sent you away, you came home with a degree, that's success. But you can come home. You have that luxury of coming home. And so I had to switch my mindset, so that I knew that I wasn't a failure, but because God has given you now this time to figure out your life. There's some people, they don't have that time because they have to work, because they can't go home and live with their parents. But you can come home and live with your parents because you have that as a blessing. And I had to switch because for me it was really hard. It was extremely hard because I won't say that I was raised to be independent, but I kind of sort of was. But I always had that independent spirit. I even told my mom when I graduated from college, I'm like, I'm grown, you know, I don't pay my cell phone bill. And this is back in 2000. This is back in 2007 when there was no unlimited plans.
Right. Ooh.
Right. So I'm paying like
can't talk after $7
for a cell phone bill, and I'm just working. I graduated from college, and I'm working as a substitute teacher in Tallahassee. And I'm like, you were a fool. Why did you say that? And she let me do it too.
Oh gosh, and I will say identity. As you're talking, identity came to my mind. But like you said, there are things we're supposed to do. You know, and you mentioned earlier infertility. Oh my gosh, when I was diagnosed with PCOS. PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which basically means I have a whole lot of little cysts. I'm sorry for the men that are listening that are completely grossed out by this. I apologize. But it basically means I have a whole lot of little cysts in my ovaries, which doesn't necessarily mean that it does, but it can affect and has affected for many women fertility, amongst other things like the pancreas and endocrine level. A number of things. Praise God for me, it's not that serious, and it's under control and able to be handled. But it did affect my ability to reproduce. So I knew that if I ever got married and reproduction was, you know, having children was a big issue, I was like, oh my God, as a woman, I am a failure. I am not going to be, you know, what man is going to want me now? I won't be able to give him children. I went through all of that because in my identity, I, as a woman, am here to make babies. Yeah. So what happens when I can't make babies? Yeah. Oh my God. Panic. But I had to relearn. I had to, and I'm very grateful for those moments because it stripped my identity that I made up for myself. It stripped the identity and the expectations that I created for myself. And when I was bare and I had no expectations and no identity and didn't know, okay, so what's what now? I had no choice but to say, okay, well, if I want to know more about who I am, I need to know the person that created me. I need to know my creator. And born and raised in church, but no church. I could do church. I needed to know God.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
We all can.
You know, we could do church, but I needed to know God. Like, you created me. Who did you create me to be? What did you create me for? What's my purpose? How can I fulfill what you need? And that's when things really started shifting. That's, you know, when I started relying, you know, his strength is made perfect in our weakness. That was some of my weakest moments is when, and even when I still have weak moments, I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe you're trying to show your strength, and maybe I just need to step back and stand down for a minute. So I'll stay home and just listen. Sometimes I get an answer in a direction. Sometimes I'm just like, no, nothing. Maybe you just need to tell me to sit down and stop being so busy. Okay, I'll take that as well. But I mean, it can be so many different things, and a therapist can help you unpack a lot of that and move forward. That's why I'm really big on Christian therapists. Not saying that a therapist that doesn't pronounce himself as being Christian can't help. I'm not saying that, but for my personal reasons, I think that, you know, if we are trying to further our Christian walk, when we're dealing with some of these mental health issues, having a Christian therapist is like a double whammy.
How is it different though? I mean,
well, I can only share my personal experience. In my personal experience, I had 2 therapists total. The first therapist I had whether she was Christian or not, she never disclosed. Okay. I don't know if she was. But she was very by the book. And when she heard depression, she sent me to a psychiatrist that put me on medication. I didn't like how I felt on the medication. Medication ain't for everybody.
So what's the difference between the psychiatrist and a clinician, what you do?
A psychiatrist actually can prescribe medication. I cannot. A psychologist can't necessarily. Licensed profession is a mental health clinician cannot. Marriage and family therapist, like we can't actually write a prescription that you can take to your drugstore and get a prescription for medication. A psychiatrist can, because they went through that level of education. They went through a certain degree of medical training. So that's the difference, basically. So she sent me to a psychiatrist who could diagnose who could prescribe, and he did exactly that. I'm going to be honest. I've never heard of anyone going to a psychiatrist that didn't walk out with a prescription. Mm-hmm. Could happen. I don't know that. So I did take the medication for about a month, and I lived in a fog for about a month. Wow. So like I said, it's not for everybody. It wasn't for me. I went back and asked them to, can I wean off of this? I don't want to continue this. And in a nutshell, psychotropic medication, when you come on and off medications, your mood can really spike. Mm-hmm. So you need to be watched. I just went ahead and stopped going to therapy, so I was not watched. So of course it spiked really low, and I was, bad time. But I didn't go back to therapy for 2 years until one of my aunts, completed suicide, and I did not know in my entire life that she dealt with depression. Wow. Did not know it. You want to talk about a trigger? You want to talk about a trigger? A shock to my system, and I was just like, I don't want to do that. And that's when I was like, I don't want to die. I saw my family on the other side. She had left us behind, and how distraught we were, how sad we were. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And that's when that was 2 years later. 2 years after I had attempted suicide, that happened. That's when I told my parents, I need help. I need to talk to somebody. Can you guys help me find somebody? Luckily, my mom knew a woman who was a Christian and was a therapist. And she was like, but because I know Cinnamon, I'm not going to do her therapy. I'm going to refer her to someone. Mm-hmm. And that woman, to this day,
objective.
Right. Mm-hmm. That woman, to this day, is my therapist. This day is my therapist. And
so therapy is something that is ongoing, or it is just for 2 months, 3 months? How?
Well, it depends on the diagnosis. It depends on a few different things. I am not one that believes that somebody should be in consistent therapy weekly for like 10 years. I'm sorry. That's a lot. What has been accomplished? Mm-hmm. You really have to measure what's been accomplished in that amount of time. For me, I went for, I think it was a solid 6 or 7 months. I think it was probably 7 months weekly to that particular therapist. And now I may see her either once a year or as needed. Mm-hmm. She'll check in with me. It's like, I need to see you once a year. I need to see that you're okay. Just check in with you, whatever the case may be. But if I feel like, oh my God, this wave I'm riding is lasting way too long and I can't get myself out of it, I will make an appointment and go see her and say, I need an appointment.
So for those who are on the other side of it, and what are some of the things that they can look out for their family member, friend, or, how would we know that, listen, I need to check on this friend?
Okay. I'm going to give my 3 A's.
Okay, yes.
The 3 A's, and I give it... Can I talk about the podcast on here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a podcast, by the way, called the Resilience Rising Podcast, and the episode actually came out this morning. Good. That goes a little bit into exactly that. But like I said, we'll give all the websites later.
You're going to share.
No, you're going to share.
We have a couple of minutes left before we end our show. So
okay, perfect. Perfect. So the 3 A's, if there's a glaring, and I mean glaring, unavoidable change in their attendance, meaning they used to show up to a lot of things and now you don't see them anymore, or vice versa, they showed up to nothing and now you see them everywhere. A glaring change in their affections, jovial, good, they're always the person that comes into work, good morning, good morning, good morning, and then like for 2 months goes by and they barely speak to anybody. Something's up. Could be nothing, could be something, but it's worth looking into. Mm-hmm. And the third is a glaring change in their appearance. Mm-hmm. Are they disheveled? Do they used to be well put together and now, they're very disheveled? Those very glaring changes in those 3, and I go a little bit deeper into that. There's a blog on the website, and also we go a little bit deeper into that on the podcast episode. But what I'd like to say is, make sure that you talk to the person, let them know that you notice them. Sometimes it's good to know that you're noticed, that if there's a change in you, that it's been noticed. Sometimes it could be a physical dealing, it could be a number of things. Mm-hmm. But it's an eye opener to say, listen, something's up. And I think that you should probably talk to someone about this. Now, if somebody flat out says to you, yeah, I want to kill myself, You don't have to assess that.
Yeah.
Don't assess that. Don't waste time. Call 911. Help them call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I have that number programmed in my phone as a contact.
What's that number?
It's 1-800-273-8255 if I'm not 100% mistaken. Like I said, I have it plugged into my phone, so I'm going to bring it up right now. So I can always 1-800-273-8255. So I did say it right. 1-800-273-8255. Plug that number into your phone under the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So if at any time you're with someone, a loved one, anyone that says, you know what, this is it, I wanna just go ahead and go home and end it, do not let them go home. Don't just be like, oh, okay, well, I'll call you later and check on you. No, you're not leaving my site right now. Right. If I need to call 911, if we need to call the prevention hotline.
And social media has caused us to see a lot of things too, and we all know people who would go off on social media. Mm-hmm. So if they're saying, I've had enough, this is it, what do you do with that?
Personally, I inbox them.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I've done that. I've inboxed them and said, listen, and I don't know if it's because I'm a mental health clinician that they kind of tone it down after that. I don't know. But as a friend, I'm like, listen, your post just alarmed me, and I need to know that you're okay.
Now, are you doing it to get attention, or are you doing it because you're really going through something?
Some people are.
Because that, I mean, to me, something is not anything that you should play with.
It's not, but unfortunately.
So what we're going to do right now, I know this is going good, and we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with you with mental health clinician Cinnamon Key.
He said we can go to 11:30, so I don't know. Maybe we could just talk about some other things. Maybe
you want to do
sure.
What PTSD?
Not an expert on PTSD.
Okay, what is that?
Post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Okay. You still on? Did you turn it off?
Oh.
I'm trying to think what else we could talk about. Maybe just being. I always want to go to this area, but we don't have to. Huh? You kept doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe just talk about being a woman. I don't know.
We could do that.
Just being an entrepreneur and navigating everything and the stress levels and all that kind of stuff and how to deal with that. Being strong and people saying something like that. And then we want you to also talk again about your event, Quisha, and everyone that will be there and the date of that. And you have to give your website.
Okay.
Cinnamon.
Will do.
And your social media.
We're gonna have you share about your event too.
Okay.
So Santi gave us. It's supposed to be 30 minutes, but we keep.
Our second guest didn't come, and then we normally end at 11, but he's giving us 11:30.
Okay.
Someone said
Triggers.
that they love your transparency.
Oh, cool.
Into the conversation, so
He is.
allowed you.
Because he was all in it.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I do have someone watching that said we could speak on triggers.
What triggers? Okay.
Identifying your triggers. And actually, you said something earlier that was actually leading into that, and I couldn't remember what it was. It was leading when you were saying yes, yes, absolutely.
He's gonna take pictures with you on,
Oh, yay! I get to show that to my pastor. Be like,
And they are very close friends.
like,
So it's like,
that's your movie buddy, but I was with your movie.
Yes.
You know, I'm gonna be like, I was with your movie buddy. Like,
yeah, but I mean, I'm enjoying it too because it's causing us to open up a dialogue where we are able to really talk about those things.
Right.
I actually had my uncle, my oldest aunt, so my grandmother had 10 children, and 9 of them are living. And my uncle was actually shot and killed in Little Haiti, and they never found out who shot him. But he he after college, he I think went into the war, and he didn't come back the same, and so that's why they were wondering like why that happened, because he didn't really bother anyone, because something was wrong with him.
Yeah.
But he was able to live on his own and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I remember him, but I don't remember because I was only like 2 or 3 when he passed away. But that's like the only sign of, I guess, mental health that I've seen in my.
You should share that story.
In my
Yeah.
family.
Sure.
Absolutely. And
I don't even think my grandmother processed that. I don't even believe that she
probably
did.
not, because
She
I
didn't.
mean,
Back then, it's,
Yeah. I don't think that she did.
and even still today, I mean, it's when I went live, like I said, in December, but I went live again as a follow-up, not until, because I usually put everything on my podcast, but it was a couple months ago, I don't know, and I went live just to update people on, this is how I've been doing. And I had one person who was a close guy friend in middle school that tuned in, and he was shocked. He typed, "You, but you're so strong."
So you said talk about that. That's good. Bring that up.
Yeah, me.
Can
Yeah.
you still be strong and deal with and be
Absolutely.
depressed?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're a power lifter and you're strong and you happen to break your arm, are you suddenly not strong anymore? You're still strong. You just got a little weakness right here. So yeah, we could definitely talk about triggers, and that may lead into PTSD.
Okay, so can you still be strong and be
I know
depressed?
someone who has PTSD due to the weather, because he stayed here through Hurricane Andrew, and down south where I live, we were wrecked, but he stayed during the hurricane. So as a result of that, any storm, any thunderstorm at all, he is triggered. Oh my God, he's going to stay in the house. He is not going outside. He doesn't want anybody in his family going outside. Everybody in his family, even though they live in their own homes, has to come to his house. And so he knows we are all in this together. He is a mess. A mess when it's a thunderstorm.
I'm looking for some of the. I mean, that's enough. That's going to take us in all that.
But yeah, when you said people say what they say about being single. When they say what they say about being single.
We want to talk about that too. I always want to talk about that for some reason. I'm like,
because you know what?
Put us in a box.
I only ever hear it in church. When I'm single, it's like, but your husband's coming. I didn't ask. But I didn't ask you any. But I didn't. What made you think that's what I'm here for? I'm looking for. I don't walk around all day looking for, Lord, where's my husband?
Like my dad was like, he said, I don't feel like being here. I was like, don't go. I was like, don't go. And what we have to talk about too is the opinions of people, because we are. How does that change? And I know that was a big thing for you, Cinnamon, because if you're sitting on this side of the fence, now you have to be on that side.
Yeah.
How do you?
My cousin's wife, she's a nurse, but she is also sick as well. So she came up with an idea. So her new Instagram is the nurse patient, because she said God had been giving her that for the longest. She has some kind of brain something. We have to go inside her brain and do something. But she's a nurse, and she's also a patient. And so I was like, you should share that story, and especially if God is giving it to you. Maybe you keep having these episodes because He's telling you need to share the story,
right? And
you haven't been obedient about it and sharing it. So she is the nurse. So when I thought about you, thought about her when you were talking about your story, and I was like, that's her. Yeah, that's exactly her.
I listened to a podcast where a husband and wife have a podcast, and they have 5 children. And now they want a 6th, and she has not been able to conceive. They've done in vitro, there's in vitro insemination, and it didn't take, and now they're gearing up for in vitro fertilization. And all I can think of is what she may be going through emotionally and mentally to say, I had 5.
Yeah.
What happened?
And you know what I was saying when you said about with the cysts, because you know I deal with the fibroids thing, and when I had fibroids, and when I have, you see, I have a cut, and
That's
this
from the fibroids surgery.
32 stitches, and I said that same thing. Of course, I didn't say it in mine, but I said that same thing. I was like, I ain't gonna get a husband now. Like I was dealing with that. I was like, oh no, who's gonna want to see this ugly mark on my stomach? Because I had the surgery, and so when you were saying that, I was like, gosh, like we suppress so much things.
Yeah.
And after you said that this morning, I was like, yeah, I said
gotta
that same
unpack.
thing too.
It gotta unpack.
So
And there are
every
things
time
that
I'm looking at that,
I think about it, our bags have been with us since we've been on this earth. There may be something from when you were 7 years old sitting in that bag.
Bishop would like for us to do a sponsorship for you.
No.
Yes. So
See, look at God.
before you leave, make sure you go into there so you can, record your.
Yeah, look at God. What are you
See?
doing? All right.
That's the kind of person you the hush people.
All right.
She's a sweetheart.
Process
Yeah, process it. Unpack it.
Oh.
Thanks for showing up, man. You did
What's
this.
funny is
That's cinnamon.
the first line in processing that just happened right now is, what did I do to deserve that?
Oh,
Because that's what that's my process. I have to deserve something.
that's good.
Okay, I'm okay. Wow.
Well, we are back from our break, and we're receiving blessings during the break, and we're so grateful for that. And while we were on the break, we were discussing some things. So we want to talk about triggers. What are some things that trigger people? Can you discuss that?
Ooh. Different people have different triggers, but it's good to pay attention and identify what they are. Like you mentioned earlier about processing. When you get into a mode and you have to sit and process it, one of the processing is, there's something in behavior called ABC, which is the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence. So the antecedent is what happened before the behavior. So if the behavior is I'm crying, if the behavior is I'm angry, if the behavior is I've shut down, what was the antecedent to that? What happened right before that? What happened right before I started crying? Somebody said, okay, what happened right before I started crying? My doctor told me that I may have trouble producing children. Why is that so hard? And that's when the processing of that, I know that's a trigger.
Yeah.
I know I now know that that's a trigger for me, so I can process that trigger. So I knew after a while that when women would start talking about all the children that they've had, and I'm gonna be honest, being a social worker became hard for me. Became very hard for me because I even worked in dependency care and foster care, and seeing women not want their children that they had, and here I am as a woman who knew I was going to be a fantastic mom, telling me that there's a good chance I can't have kids. Man, you want to talk about a trigger? Sitting in that courtroom hearing some of the things that mothers would do to the children they were blessed with, trigger, and there were and so I had to deal with that. I had to process that but now I can process it because I've identified it, because we can't cure what we continue to hide. We can't heal, what we continue to hide. It's not going to heal. It's just going to sit there in our little package, and when we try to go through TSA to get to the next level in life, we're not going to get there because we can't walk with that resentment, with that bitterness. I can't take that with me.
You know, it's so crazy, and I want to use this example about my car. So I had ants in my car. I was like wondering, where are these ants coming from? So I had my brother, clean my car, and then I'm thinking it's coming from the trees. So my dad chopped the trees down.
Wow.
I'm thinking the trees are bringing the ants, to my car. And then I said, I'm going to get it washed professionally. I got it washed professionally, and still the ants were still there. And so my mom was like, well, look in the trunk. Maybe you have some, food or something. I went in the trunk, went in a bag, and dug in the bag and saw that I had candy in the bag that had been there for years. And so I'm gonna bring it home. And so I was like, wow. So sometimes we are carrying these things for so long and we don't realize that we're carrying them until some point in time.
Until you see a symptom.
Until you see a symptom.
Mm-hmm.
And these ants were the symptom. Like,
Come on now.
Like, out of nowhere, these ants came.
And what do? We look at every external issue.
But
the tree, having someone else wash the car, when it's really, girl, you just preached.
I was like, these ants are here for a reason. And it was really frustrating me. I was like, where are these ants coming from? And it was inside my car all the time. So I had that candy in my car for probably like 2-3 years.
Wow.
And didn't even realize that I had it in there. And I was like, wow. I said, okay, God. Okay. But yeah, so, just along the lines of what you were saying, unpacking and, realizing that. And I am, I had shared a story with Quisha that, and I was disappointed about something. I had to realize, well, why are you disappointed? And you're disappointed because you desire that and it didn't happen for you. And I was like, that's what it is. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna just deal with these feelings like I desire this. And it's okay that I desire this and it didn't happen then, but doesn't mean that it's not gonna happen. But I just needed to understand why I was disappointed about it, and I was disappointed because that's what you want, that's what I want, that's what I desire.
But you know what happened? And this happened to me. I had to learn this. I had to start asking myself. I started really talking to myself and answering myself. So I don't know if that's a sign of what we call crazy. But I had to ask myself, okay, so Cinnamon, that happened. But what happened the next day? You know what happened the next day? I woke up. I didn't die. I didn't die in it. Yeah. It happened. It was hard. It was unexpected. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I desired. But I woke up the next day, which means I'm okay. I'm okay. I lived through it. I lived past it. I'm okay. So I didn't get an engagement ring from who I thought I was going to get it from. I'm okay. I'm okay. So, that job didn't work out and I held my breath for it. And let me tell you, that was my most recent trigger. My most recent depression wave was that I literally held my breath for a position that was opening. And I was like, oh my God, you made this position for me. God didn't tell me that. He didn't tell me that. I told me that. But I wanted to tell me that in his voice, just kind of let me see if I can sound like him. Oh, Cinnamon, this is for you. No. He didn't say that. And I believed it so hard because I did the church thing. If you believe it, speak it in the atmosphere. All the stuff that I hear often, I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually practice that. I'm speaking into the atmosphere. That job is mine. That job is mine. I'm going to text my friends that are going to tell me the job is mine. They're going to stand in the gap. We're going to touch and agree. We're going to do all this stuff. And guess what? It was not mine. Yeah. But a good friend of mine that I didn't even know applied for the same job, got the job. And I had to fight because I felt guilty for not being happy for her. I did. I felt guilty. I felt more guilty for not being happy for her than I did upset that I didn't get the job. Because I was like, Cinnamon, you're not being a good friend. So I had to fight through that thing. And after a while, I was just like, so when do you start? They need to hurry up because I was like, you know what? She is perfect for that job. She's going to do amazing work for, she'll be doing work for children. She's going to do amazing work. And that's when I was just like, you know what? Let me just rally behind you. And I noticed when I changed my mindset, when I changed my thought pattern, when I changed my heart, is when my mood began to elevate. I was coming out of that depression because it wasn't about me and the job anymore. It was about my friend and the work that was going to be done for the sake of children.
Which probably opened up a door, or will open up a door. Well, we already know it opened up a door during the break for you.
Because then I get an email to come onto the show. Well, hello.
Yeah.
Hey, WMBM. I would not have been available.
I want to go back to what you were saying. I've changed my thoughts and what I've said to myself, even about dating and being in a relationship. I will always say God, and I was like, let this work out with this God. And I've changed my thought and what I say in regards to this, and just say, I just want your will. I want my desires to line up with your will, because maybe it's not him. Maybe it's not who I think it should be. Maybe it's someone else. So I'm thinking it's him because he's in my face and whatever. Right. And I like him. He's cute. He's handsome.
He matched my list. He matched my list.
And so maybe it's God saying that I want your desire to line up with my will. So I've changed my thought pattern with that. But I want to ask you this question: how can you still be strong and be depressed? No, we talked about on the break about you said you posted something on social media, and a friend from middle school said, "You, Cinnamon, but you're strong."
That's exactly what he said.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Wait, you?" As he was fine with me discussing depression because he thought I was coming from the standpoint of being the clinician. Mm-hmm. But when he kept listening to what I was saying, and he was like, "Wait, so you have depression?" He said, "But you're so strong." Mm-hmm. And I was like, in my head, I was like, "Yeah, that's the problem." The strength here. Okay, I'm not a minister or preacher or any case. So, but I have learned, and I'm very open to learning more and more about God and what He would have for us. Mm-hmm. We were never meant to be the ones walking around with all the strength. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is my opinion, that we were never created to be these islands, these solo projects, walking around never needing to lean on Him for any amount of strength. Mm-hmm. We are meant to, if He gives me a certain ability, He gives me a certain ability, but He also is able to back that thing up. So if I'm walking around like, I'm so strong, I don't need nobody, I'm so strong, I can figure this out, I got this, I got that, then where am I saying that I need Him? Mm-hmm. So I've had to learn that it's okay for me to be weak, and the strength that people are seeing in me is really the strength of God. Mm-hmm. That's what you're seeing, and I've had to clarify that to a couple people. They're like, "Oh my God, you have such strength." Let me tell you what you're seeing. The Mary and Kiara Sheard song, it's the God in me. Mm-hmm. What you don't know is when she go home and get behind closed doors, man, she hit the floor. Mm-hmm. That's what you don't see. Yeah. So when I'm coming out, sometimes it's a mask. I'm not even going to lie. Sometimes I put the mask on. Like, oh man, I'm weak today, but I want everybody to see me as a strong person. I have to go give a speech. I have to go, be a public speaker, and whatever the case may be. So let me just put this mask on for a couple hours. When I get back in the car, I'll take it off. But most of the time it's like, no, what you're seeing is God helping me up today, because if it was up to Cinnamon, I'd be home watching Law and Order SVU. I would not be here. But what you're seeing is the strength of God saying, "No, Cinnamon, get up. I got you. Okay, let me help you out of bed today. Let me help you, get in the car. Let me help you down the road. Let me help you drive from Homestead all the way to MBM."
So, one of our listeners, and I did come off live during the break, and I should have went back on. So I have a parent that inboxed me and said, "Please talk about," she said her kid, I'm not going to say whether it's female or male, but she said her kid is cutting themselves. And she said, how do you know if your kid is dealing with depression? So, I don't know if you want to.
I will say this: if your child is cutting themselves, what they are doing, it's tricky, because I actually just had a similar conversation just yesterday with a parent where her child has a physical illness, and it manifests in physical pain from time to time. So there are times when her child just doesn't want to do something, or doesn't want to go somewhere like to school or to some sort of activity, that she'll say, "Oh, Mommy, I'm in pain." And so she gets some feedback from other parents. It's like, "Well, she don't really mean it. She's not really in pain. She just don't want to go. You should make her go anyway." And her response was, "I'm not in her body. I don't know if she's actually in pain or not. So I have to treat each time she says she's in pain like she's actually in pain, in case that is the time when she's actually in pain." So I'm going to take that, and I was like, what, that's a really good point, that you don't know. Being that a lot of times people think, oh, but not all cutting means that they're actually trying to kill themselves. But if you don't know, treat it like it is. Treat it like it's the crisis situation that you think it is, in case it actually is. Cutting, most of the time with children, there's an internal pain that they're feeling, that cutting it doesn't take the pain away, but it creates another external sensation to take their mind off the internal pain that they're feeling. That's a lot of times what cutting is. Could it be attention seeking? Possibly, but isn't that the kind of attention you want them to see? Don't you want them to say, send a signal that says, help me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said there's a lot of things going on at home, in the home, because she wanted your information, which I said you will get at the end of the show. But what do you, she really wants to know about, how to treat that as a parent.
Right. With therapy. With therapy, absolutely. Most definitely. I have I have people in church who have asked me. I have friends who have asked me. I have other professionals. Professionals not necessarily in the mental health field, but they're in the education field, and they're like, I should know how to help my child. There's a lot of things we think we should know. A lot of things. There's a lot of things I thought I should know, but absolutely get them the help. Make sure they're in the hands of mental health clinician. How to find a mental health clinician.
Right, yes.
Because that's usually, it's like, okay, well, then where do I go? First things first, if you have insurance, thank you to the Affordable Care Act and the movement of mental health that it's not quite as hard to find a therapist that takes insurance. So if you have insurance, if you have health insurance, look on your insurance card. Call the number that's on the back of the insurance card or go on the website and find a therapist in your area. Also, you can dial 211, the switchboard of Miami. There's a lot of agencies that are listed on the switchboard of Miami. A lot of people use social media. Absolutely, you can use social media.
What's your social media, your website?
JamilaWellness.org. The company's name is Jamila Wellness, JamilaWellness.org. So JamilaWellness.org is my website. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter is all Jamila Wellness, all the same. So, social media. But I do always tell people, because of the boom of coaches, there was a boom a few years ago that everybody's a coach now of some sort, different types of coaches. I would say, ask them for their credentials. Just ask for credentials. Honestly, when I go into a nail shop, they have their license up on the, they want you to know, listen, we've passed all the inspections, we're licensed, we know what we're doing, we're okay. Ask for credentials if you'd like to know if they're actually a mental health clinician or if they're claiming to be. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think.
So kids can go through like deep depression as well.
Absolutely.
Too,
Let's think about it. They're exposed to so much more. Did I have a smartphone when I was 15?
No.
I was lucky to get a nameplate from the flea market. I got
my first phone when I was in the 12th grade. This was back in 2000. It was, and I was one of few who had. Yeah,
2000 was, I think, the first year I had a cell phone.
They're really exposed to a lot and a lot of pressure. And I'm not sure if you know. I would love to get her on the show one day. She's a Delta. She's a dancer. She's over the payback at Miami Northwestern. Tracy Young.
Okay, yeah.
And so she posted on her Instagram that a child was being bullied, a young girl was being bullied, and she was rocking her natural hairstyle. And someone in class, a student, took a picture of her and made a meme out of her. And it was like when you wanted to get your hair done, but you end up getting this. So basically made it seem as if it was just really horrible. And so Tracy reposted it and just showed her some love, and just really she just really I just felt like that was just really big of her, because she's Tracy is different, hands down. Right. And so she made it okay to be different, and just showing that, showcasing that on social media. But these kids they're taking photos of other kids, putting it on social media, even doing teachers. I know of someone personally who they have dedicated a social media page to this one teacher just to talk about the teacher. And I'm like, just why? What's the purpose?
There's a quote that I saw that it says, if you don't heal what hurt you, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you.
Yes, I saw that too. Yes.
And
I think you posted that.
And one of the things that I've seen is that broken girls, broken boys become broken men or broken women if something is not done. And that's why I think that this conversation is so important, and I'm being, getting a lot of hits on social media, because we don't get to talk about this openly, because we don't talk about it at church, we don't talk about it at our jobs. and people are suffering in silence.
Yep.
And I said, if I can do anything about it, yes, Quisha trying to do, and this is so not in my lane, but because I know what comes at me and what and it's a lot because I worked with foster care for 10 years.
And that was hard for you too,
and oh
right?
my God, that was hard for me because they would tell us and teach us we have to detach.
Yeah.
I cannot detach with a family that is like this. I want to bring everybody home with me.
Right.
To, okay, like it's going to be okay, you know. But then I realized that some people need more, more love to, and especially when I see kids are going through things, and that's when their parent just inboxed me that, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to go. I want to go to his school. I want to go to their school, you know, to help them. So persons like yourself are so needed. Where can we start? Where can we? I know this is a start. Where can we start this dialogue within our homes?
And I said this on your live, and everybody seemed to love it, so I'm going to say it again.
Say it.
Fight the fear and pick up the phone. Fight that fear. Whatever the fear of the fear of the judgment, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of saying it out loud. Sometimes you just don't want to say it out loud. You know, it's like, oh my God, because that makes it real. Because now it's real. I've said it out loud, and I can't take it back. So now that makes it real. Fight the fear and have the conversation. Have the conversation. Understand that a lot of people aren't going to want to have the conversation, and that's in their own time, in their own triggers, with their own levels. But fight that fear of no one wanting to have that conversation with you, and say something. Have it anyway. Be as transparent as you can. You know, one thing about adults is when it comes to children, we want to guide them so much that we may be afraid of being wrong, but we can guide based on what we know, you know, based on our level of knowledge. There are times when I'll say something to a group of girls that I'm, you know, having a session with, you know, group session with, and I'll have to, if one girl will correct me, and I'll have to say, you know what, I was wrong for that. I apologize. What I just said could have been taken a different way, and you're right. You're right. What you just said was right, and what I said could have been misconstrued. And I don't want you all to walk out of this room thinking what I said was law. So I apologize. Once I did that, and a girl started crying, and I asked her, I said, well, what did I say that made you cry? And I apologize if I said something or hurt you. She said, no, you said I'm sorry. I've never heard an adult say that before.
Wow.
Start somewhere. Open your mouth and start something. Fight the fear of having to be right all the time. Fight that fear. Fight it, and open your mouth. Say something. You know, you guys. I think we should have, like you said, with you guys. You know, 3 years have gone by and we haven't talked about it. We haven't said anything, even though you may not get a response. Fight that fear, and you may have to fight it again and say it again. I don't know. You know. So that would be that's the first step, I think. Fight the fear of being judged. Fight the fear of, I don't know who to call, or I don't, you know, we're going to hide behind all kinds of stuff. I don't, you know what, I don't have insurance. There's a lot of agencies that don't need insurance. There's even some people who will do pro bono work. Put it out there. You know, I see people looking for plumbers on Facebook all the time. Hey, you guys, can you recommend a plumber? Can y'all recommend a therapist? You don't have to you don't have to say what you need a therapist for. Just say, can y'all recommend a therapist?
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. Hashtag asking for a friend, or hashtag asking for myself. Like,
sure did.
Who knows?
I want you to answer this one question and also tell us about your event as we come to a close. How do you help someone who's battling with depression, and then tell us about your event that you have coming up?
How do I help someone that's battling with depression? How do I help someone? Or you mean how do I, or how can others help someone?
Or maybe how can others?
There's a cartoon that I saw once years ago, and I wish I could find it again. I'll have to go on a search for it. That two stick figures. One person was saying that they were depressed, and the other person said, well, what can I do? And they said, I don't know. And they said, well, you know what? I'm going to make you a pillow fort, or some kind of like, you know, fort like kids would make in the living room. And they made a fort, and the person suffering with depression got in the fort. And the friend said, now what can I do? And the other, you know, the friend in the fort was just like, oh, I don't know. So the friend who was outside the fort got in the fort with them and was just physically there. Sometimes it's that simple.
And just being there.
sometimes it's just that simple, not coming with the answers all the time. Because let me tell you, as somebody who has dealt with depression and who still deals with the waves from time to time, I don't necessarily want someone to come with answers. Sometimes I just need you to be there.
The waves, I like that.
Just physically be there.
Waves
That's good. And you know, if you are a Christian, let God lead what the next steps are. Just physically being there sometimes. There you go. That's good. So I would start there. And as far as the event, after the September 30th event, which I'm so excited about.
You're going to be a speaker at LaQuisha's
I will be on the panel, one of the panel members, and this panel is phenomenal.
Yeah.
The mental health clinicians that are going to be on this panel are, I'm very excited. So I'm looking forward to all of the people that are listening here that are going to be there as well. Make sure you come say hi to me so I can, you know, hug you and squeeze on you and love on you and everything. But a few days after that, on October 6th, Saturday, October 6th, I'm having an event in the southern, what my pastor calls the southern part of the kingdom, down in South Dade. It's a very intimate event, and it's called the I Am a 5-Star Woman Retreat. And, you know, we love 5-star hotels and 5-star restaurants and resorts and all these other things, and 5-star cruises, and we just want those. Well, are we 5-star women? Like, are we operating at our highest levels? So we are going to be talking about our spiritual wellness, our physical wellness, our mental wellness, our emotional wellness, and even, yes, our financial wellness. Because if I don't know how I'm feeding myself, how together am I? If I don't know where my roof is over my head, how together am I? So we're going to be going through those things, but there will be a nice catered private brunch and pamper session. So you can find all of those things on the website, jamilawellness.org. And it's called the I Am a 5-Star Woman Retreat, and I hope to see you there.
Awesome. So give us your information about Jamila Wellness again.
Jamila Wellness, where women go to be well and live beautifully.
And the website is
jamilawellness.org.
And social media handles are Jamila Wellness, right, on Instagram and Twitter.
And Facebook.
And this is Suicide Month?
I think that's in
May. Or mental health?
I think that's in May.
On May? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's in May. All right, well, thank you so much, Cinnamon, for being on the Good Success segment on the Bishop Victor T. Curry Good Morning Show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for being here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, you can follow us on WMBM.com. You can listen to us on your app.
Yes.
And every Monday, LaShannon and I will be here for another inspirational.
And Bishop.
Bishop, yes, the one and only. So you can continue to join us and continue to follow us. Until next time, have a great day.
Yes. One time for the special effect.